What happens when a biker gang adopts the philosophies of the Mafia? From ruthless battles with rival gangs to a secretive initiation ritual straight out of The Godfather, the Hells Angels Cleveland chapter changed the face of criminal organizations forever. By the 1970s, the Hells Angels had evolved from a notorious motorcycle club into a well-oiled criminal machine, in large part due to the exceptional rise of their Cleveland chapter. Unlike most Hells Angels chapters, Cleveland's branch was notorious for its willingness to engage in extreme violence, setting it apart from the others. The chapter gained infamy following a brutal incident at the Polish Women's Hall, where 5 members of the rival gang, the Breed, were murdered. This event not only brought the Cleveland chapter into the spotlight, but solidified their reputation as a group no one wanted to cross. The vice president of the chapter, Butch Crouch, was implicated in at least 2 of these murders, further cementing their fearsome image. The Hells Angels had sent a message loud and clear: opposing them could be deadly. Pat Matter, a former president of the Minnesota chapter, later commented on the Cleveland members' reputations and secrets of the Hells Angels, noting that the guys in Cleveland were serious individuals. They were well known for taking care of business. The Cleveland chapter's journey into organized crime began in earnest in 1970 when Butch Crouch arrived with a mission to restructure and expand their Cleveland operations. Within a year, the chapter had waged war on the Breed, driving them out of Cleveland after a violent confrontation at the Polish Women's Hall. This bloody encounter stemmed from a fierce rivalry over control of Cleveland's methamphetamine trade, a battle in which the Angels emerged victorious. By 1974, the Hells Angels had escalated their conflicts to a national level, openly declaring war on their primary adversaries, the Outlaws. The Cleveland chapter took charge of this violent campaign, financing their operations through a fund ominously named as Taking Care of Business Fund, established after their clash with the Breed. This fund supported Cleveland members as they roamed the country, eliminating outlaw members on behalf of other Hells Angels chapters. Eventually, the Cleveland chapter realized that the murders they were already committing could be monetized. Instead of limiting their hits to rival gangs, they began offering their lethal services to anyone willing to pay, entering the world of contract killings. Their logic was straightforward: if they were already risking their lives traveling across the country to kill for their club, why not earn some extra income? However, their transition into paid assassinations wasn't merely the result of a natural evolution in their violent operations. According to several insiders interviewed for Secrets of the Hells Angels, the Cleveland chapter's shift may have been inspired by Mario Puzo's iconic novel The Godfather. The book, which romanticized organized crime and the idea of loyalty and power achieved through ruthlessness, reportedly influenced the chapter's structure and businesslike approach to crime, prompting them to professionalize their operations and expand their criminal empire. In 1969, Mario Puzo's The Godfather hit the shelves, published by G.P. Putnam's Sons, and it quickly turned into a cultural phenomenon. The book captivated readers across the country, staying on the New York Times bestseller list for an impressive 67 weeks and selling more than 9 million copies within its first 2 years. By 1971, The Godfather was everywhere, on bookshelves, in conversations, and particularly popular among certain members of society who were no strangers to violence. That same year, a few prominent Cleveland Hells Angels, including the notorious Butch Crouch, found themselves behind bars awaiting trial. The charges stemmed from a violent confrontation at the Polish Women's Hall, an event that left a trail of bloodshed and scandal. For these Cleveland Angels, prison presented an unexpected opportunity to pass the time in ways they usually might not have. Behind bars, even hardened bikers become more open to reading, and Puzo's novels seemed to strike a chord with them at the exact moment they were ripe for influence, or perhaps at the worst possible time, depending on one's perspective. According to Metod Matt Zanosker, who served as the Cleveland chapter's president in 1972 and shared his experiences in Secrets of the Hells Angels, he saw firsthand how The Godfather made its rounds in jail. Zanosker recalled visiting Crouch, who was recovering from multiple stab wounds, including a serious injury to his back that left him struggling to walk again. They were reading books, Zanosker explained. Yeah, The Godfather had come out. For Crouch and his fellow inmates, the tale of the Corleone family and the seductive allure of organized crime held a magnetic pull. The appeal of Puzo's novel didn't go unnoticed by the authorities either. Tom Doyle, a retired detective who worked for Ohio's East Lake Police Department for nearly 4 decades, also shared his insights and secrets. He noted, The Godfather had a big impact on a lot of people. According to Doyle, a copy of the book had made its way into the jail and quickly circulated among the Cleveland Hells Angels. Each page captivated them, offering philosophies and ideas that resonated deeply with men already living a life outside the law. Kerry Drobin, an attorney and author, commented on the book's influence on the Cleveland Angels, stating, they fell in love with the whole lure of the Mafia. They were able to take a lot of those philosophies and ideologies from Puzo's story, reshaping their own outlook on loyalty, power, and their bonds as club members. Perhaps most significantly, The Godfather introduced them to the Cosa Nostra's core principle, committing murder as a rite of passage to become a made member. Detective Doyle observed how the Cleveland Hells Angels began to adopt this mentality. While locked up together, they looked around the cell block and realized that many of them had already committed murder. They reasoned that these acts could serve as binding ties of trust. Anyone willing to kill for the club could be trusted not to betray it. They believed that murder acted as a bond of silence, forging a loyalty that would keep them united, no matter the cost. This code, however, was tested by the arrival of RICO laws, which would soon challenge their assumptions about loyalty and silence within their criminal world. In audio recordings, Butch Crouch didn't directly tie his words to The Godfather, but he did share a chilling description of the evolving culture within the Cleveland chapter. According to Crouch, we all became secretly organized in the mid-1970s. By this time, the Hells Angels had adopted a deadly ritual for new recruits. Anyone joining the club was required to commit a murder within 6 months of becoming a member. Crouch explained that the penalty for refusing or failing to fulfill this initiation was equally severe, death. Detective Tom Doyle expanded on this in Secrets of the Hells Angels, noting that The Godfather popularized the expression making their bones to describe a Mafia member's first kill, a requirement to prove loyalty. In the biker world, they used a similar phrase, rolling their bones. Doyle explained that for the Cleveland Angels, this rite was a closely guarded secret, with new members expected to commit murder as a badge of commitment. While The Godfather continued to play to packed theaters in New York in 1972, a tragedy unfolded in the real-life mob underworld, casting a dark shadow over the allure of organized crime. In August, several men entered the Neapolitan noodle restaurant at 320 East 79th Street in Manhattan, mistakenly believed to be dangerous talent from out of town. A hitman, working for the Gallo crime family, mistakenly opened fire on a group of innocent businessmen, misidentifying them as rival Colombos. The attack was swift and ruthless. 2 men, kosher beef wholesalers from Westchester County and Long Island, were killed on the spot, and several of their friends were injured. The group, longtime friends who had gathered to celebrate a daughter's engagement, had unknowingly replaced Persico loyalists at the bar. By a twist of fate, the real targets, including Persico and his men, had just left the bar area to take their seats for dinner, narrowly escaping death. Another shocking murder occurred in 1972 that some have speculated bore an eerie connection to The Godfather. A capo in the Genovese family was gunned down, leading some to wonder if the murder was influenced by the famous film. However, closer examination suggests that any real connection had less to do with the storyline of The Godfather itself and more to do with the behind-the-scenes world of organized crime, where life imitated art in chilling ways. The Godfather even left its mark on one of Chicago's most infamous mob cases, the Family Secrets Trial, a reference with a surprising, almost poignant twist. During this investigation, a Mafia initiation ceremony, as described in Mario Puzo's novel, was revealed to be more than mere fiction. Frankie Breeze Calabrese Sr., a feared enforcer for the Chicago outfit, explained this ritual in a conversation with his son, Frank Jr., while both were serving time in prison. What Calabrese Sr. didn't know was that his son was secretly working with the FBI, wearing a wire to collect evidence against his own father to ensure he would never leave prison. The significance of this operation was profound, and the family secrets title reflected not only the betrayal but also the secret traditions being uncovered. During one of their taped conversations, Calabrese Sr. opened up to his son about the outfit's initiation ritual, echoing the one described in The Godfather. According to Calabrese Sr., members were made in a ceremony that involved burning the image of a saint, the type of holy card often handed out at funerals, against their palms. A pimper to the fingertip would draw blood, though it wasn't meant to be dropped onto the image. Instead, the ceremony's focus was on the test of enduring pain, and bosses would observe carefully, watching for any sign of weakness. This rite symbolized loyalty, endurance, and the ability to keep secrets, values essential to the mob's code of silence. Calabrese Jr., in conversations with the FBI, shared that his father had once told him that every candidate for making had to have committed at least one murder. The initiation might come long after the murder, but it was still essential. For Calabrese Sr., these conversations felt like father-son bonding moments. He believed they were building trust and repairing their relationship. "I lived the life I practiced," he told his son, fully unaware of the betrayal. "I preached, I lived it." For Calabrese Sr., this was a declaration of loyalty to the Mafia's principles. For Calabrese Jr., it was a revelation of secrets that would lead to his father's eventual conviction and lifelong imprisonment. In the end, The Godfather's depiction of organized crime was not only accurate but influential, shaping how both outsiders and insiders viewed the solemn, deadly traditions of the mob. Frank Calabrese Sr. had knowledge of the mob's initiation rituals that went far beyond what most people could only imagine or read about in books or movies. He referred to this solemn process of creating a made man as making a new uniform. When he first described this ceremony to his son, Frank Jr., who was unfamiliar with its brutal reality, Frank Jr. responded with surprise, saying, "I thought that was just in the movies." His father clarified that the ritual, as portrayed in The Godfather, was in fact strikingly accurate. He then speculated whoever wrote that book, either their father, or their grandfather, or somebody was in the organization. He was convinced that the novel's author, Mario Puzo, must have had access to intimate knowledge of the mob's inner workings to capture the ritual so authentically. Frank Sr. then recounted the details of his own initiation, describing how both he and his brother Nicholas had gone through the rite of passage. The ritual was intense, fingers were sliced, blood was drawn, and the sacred images of saints were set on fire and pressed into their palms. As he explained this to his son, Frank Jr. probed further, asking, "Pictures of?" "Holy pictures," his father replied, describing how the image of a saint was held in one's palm and set alight. As the image burned, each new member was expected to remain perfectly still, not showing even a hint of pain or hesitation. The bosses would watch closely to see if the initiate would flinch or pull away as the burning image seared their skin. Only when the flames were close to reaching the flesh would they allow the initiate to extinguish the flame, demonstrating his resilience and loyalty in the face of pain. This tradition, part test of fortitude and part binding contract, illustrated the severe loyalty expected within the organization.